Let us move on, and now what we want to do, we want to show in this graphical representation of this market the total amount of consumer surplus and the total amount of producer surplus that will be earned on all of these 100 units. That is the total amount of consumers and producer surplus earned in the free market equilibrium. Now conceptually, the consumer surplus of course is still what it is, the maximum price that somebody is willing to pay for a unit minus the price he actually pays. Now the key to understand the graphical analysis here is that if you pick up any quantity, so let's pick up this quantity and let's call it Q1. Now, and I want you to remember this thing that I'm going to tell you. I won't go into the details. It will take a lot of time and it is not useful as far as the syllabus is concerned. Now, the thing that you need to memorize is that given any quantity, the maximum price that some consumer in the market would be willing to pay for this unit, that maximum price is equal to the height till the demand curve starting from this quantity. So this straight vertical line, the height of this line, is equal to the maximum price that somebody would be willing to pay. Of course, you can just mark it out on the y-axis, but I'm not doing it so that the graph don't get too messy. Just remember that we are measuring prices along this y-axis and we are saying the distance from this quantity right up till the demand curve is the maximum price that some consumer would be willing to pay for this unit Q1. Whereas if at the same starting point you draw a vertical line and go up till the price line of 50 rupees, that distance of this vertical line is equal to the price that he is actually paying. So what you need to remember, therefore, let me write it down, and you need to memorize this thing, that the maximum price graphically for any given quantity, the maximum price that some consumer would be willing to pay is equal to the height till the demand curve starting from that equilibrium quantity. The price somebody actually pays is the height till the price line. So once we have these two, the consumer surplus, to figure it out on this graph, is really simple. The maximum price that somebody is willing to pay, if you take out from this maximum price the price that is actually paid, then you will be left with this part as your consumer surplus, the difference between the maximum somebody is willing to pay and what somebody actually pays. This part above the price line, below the demand curve. Now if you do this for any other quantity, you will again follow the same steps. Let's pick this quantity Q2 over here. So the distance from this point till the demand curve is the maximum price somebody is willing to pay for this unit Q2, whereas the distance from this Q2 up till the price line is the price that somebody will actually pay. So the difference between the two, this part again above the price line, below the demand curve, is the consumer surplus on this particular unit. Now in this market, a total of 100 units are being bought. That is from 0 till Q star, this is representing 100 units. So if you do this on all these units, pick up another unit, the maximum price versus the price he actually pays, again you will see that the part above the price line below the demand curve turns out to be the consumer surplus. So basically, to mark out the total consumer surplus, all you need to do here is that, look, stay above the price line and below the demand curve up till this point, the equilibrium quantity that is being actually bought. You can't go to the right because you are not buying these units. So the simple way of marking out the total consumer surplus, figure out the total quantity, that is the horizontal distance to the right that you will move. Then figure out the price line up till this quantity horizontally towards the right. Up till this quantity, the area above this price line and below this demand curve, this entire white area, is your total consumer surplus. So that is what you need to remember, that graphically your consumer's surplus is simply the area above the price line, PL for price line, and below the demand curve, DC for demand curve. And make sure that you remember this. if you are given this market representation of a product in this form of demand and supply with an equilibrium price, equilibrium quantity, what is the total consumer surplus in this free market? Area above the price line, below the demand curve, up till this equilibrium quantity. That is your consumer's surplus. Now, when we want to show the producer's surplus on this graph, again, the concept is obviously the same. The producer surplus is still the price actually received minus the minimum price that the producer was willing to accept. Now, the price actually received is again going to be the height till the price line. So the height till the price line, that doesn't change. The consumer pays 50, the producer receives 50. So the consumer, we said, was paying a price which was reflected by the height till the price line. The producer, we are saying, receives a price which is again reflected by the height till this price line. Whereas the minimum price that the producer is willing to accept is always represented by the height till the supply curve from that quantity. So the minimum price is a height till the supply curve. Again, just memorize this thing. I'm not an advocate of memorizing things, but this will take a lot of time to explain and it will take your focus away from the important things. So just remember that pick any quantity. The height till the price line is the price that the producer is actually receiving for this unit, whereas the height till the supply curve is the minimum that he wanted. So this part, this time below the price line and above the supply curves, is the producer's surplus, the difference between the minimum price he was willing to accept and what he actually receives. Now do that for another unit. Let's pick Q1. This is the minimum price, height till the supply curve, that some producer would have accepted, whereas the height till this price line is the price actually received. This difference between the two, the part below the price line, above the supply curve, is your producer's surplus. Again, since all of these 100 units are being sold, do this thing for all of these 100 units. So horizontally, starting from your price line, go out till the equilibrium quantity. That means these are the total units that are being produced, and for all these units, the area below the price line and above the supply curve this time becomes your producer's surplus. Now this graph is a really helpful thing, a useful tool, you can say, to go with in your exams. So do invest a little bit of time. It's really easy. You just need to basically memorize these two things. The minimum price producer is willing to accept, height till the supply curve. The maximum price a consumer is willing to pay, height till the demand curve. And the rest is pretty straightforward. Draw this once by your own hands: a demand curve, a supply curve, an equilibrium price P star, and equilibrium quantity Q star. What is the consumer surplus? Start at this price line, go horizontally to the right till this quantity Q star. These are all the units that are bought, and on all these units, area above the price line, below the demand curve, is your consumer surplus. Producer surplus, again, start from this price line, go out horizontally till the equilibrium quantity. These are the units produced. On all these units, area below the price line and above the supply curve, or let me make it like this. So this crossed out part is your producer's surplus, or the circled part down here below the price line.